Okay, let's talk about economics. Now, if that word makes you think of complicated charts and, super dry textbooks, hang on for a second. Because at its heart, economics isn't just about money or the stock market. It's really the fascinating story of how we make choices every single day. I mean, think about it like this. You've got 20 bucks in your pocket. You could buy that new book you've been eyeing, or you could go grab lunch with a friend. You can't do both. That decision, that simple act of choosing one thing over the other, well, that's economics in a nutshell. It's something you do, I do, we all do all the time without even really thinking about it. And believe it or not, that really simple, everyday choice actually points us directly to the central problem that the entire field of economics was created to solve. And that problem has a name: scarcity. This is the big one. It's the foundational concept of everything we're going to talk about. Scarcity is just the basic fact that we humans want a ton of stuff, but the resources we have to make that stuff, time, money, materials, are limited. Honestly, if nothing were scarce, we wouldn't have to make choices, and economics as a subject just wouldn't need to exist. Yeah, the easiest way to lock this in your brain is with this simple phrase: unlimited wants, limited means. That tension right there is the engine driving every single economic decision, from what you're having for dinner to what a government decides to spend billions on. So because we all face this universal problem of scarcity, it means we all have to think a little bit like an economist, whether we realize it or not. And economists, well, they use a pretty clear and logical framework to look at these decisions. And the logic is actually super simple. It goes like this. Scarcity forces us to make a choice, and every single choice we make creates something called an opportunity cost. See how they're linked? One thing leads directly to the next. Okay, so what on earth is opportunity cost? It's the real cost of your decision. And here's the key. It's not just the money you spent. It's the value of the next best thing you had to pass up. So if you bought that book for $20, the opportunity cost isn't just the $20. It's the fun lunch with your friend that you didn't get to have. Here's a perfect, super simple example. Let's say you can afford a tin of rice or a tin of beans, but not both. If you pick the rice, the opportunity cost is the beans you left on the shelf. That's it. That is the trade-off, and it's absolutely crucial. All right, so this all makes sense for you and me, right? On a personal level. But how does this whole idea scale up to an entire country? Well, nations face scarcity too. They have limited workers, limited land, limited factories, and they have to make enormous choices about what to produce. To figure this out, economists have this really cool visual tool. It's called the Production Possibilities Curve, or PPC for short. And all it does is show the maximum combinations of two different things a country can produce using all of its available resources. Just look at this table. It shows you those trade-offs in action. So if this country puts all its energy into making butter, they can make 80 tins, but they get 0 rice. Bummer. If they go all in on rice, they get 5 bags, but not a single tin of butter. Or they could try to find a sweet spot in the middle, like at point D, 3 bags of rice and 60 tins of butter. The main point is, they can't have it all. They have to choose. So when you plot those points on a graph, you get this curve, and it tells us a few really important things. Any point right on the curve means you're being perfectly efficient. Everyone's working, the factories are humming. A point inside the curve, that's a problem. That means there's waste, like high unemployment. And what about a point outside the curve? Nope, not possible. That's currently unattainable with what you've got. But what if a country gets more resources, or maybe invents some amazing new technology? Well, then, the whole curve can actually shift outward. And that shift is what we call economic growth. It means the country can now produce more of both things than it could before, which is pretty great. Okay, so the PPC shows a country what's possible. But that brings up a really big question. Who gets to decide where on that curve a society should be? Who makes that choice? This is where different economic systems come into play. You can think of them as the different rulebooks societies follow to answer that very question. You've basically got 3 main flavors. In capitalism, things are owned privately, and decisions get made by supply and demand, what we call the price mechanism. The consumer is king. In socialism, ownership is public, meaning the government, and the central authority makes the big decisions. And then you have a mixed economy, which, you guessed it, mixes elements of both. So if we zoom in on capitalism, the upsides are pretty clear. That constant competition tends to drive efficiency and new ideas. But of course, there are some well-known downsides. It can lead to massive inequality, and sometimes you get huge monopolies that control everything. Now, on the flip side, you have the socialist system. The goal here is usually less income inequality, and it avoids what some would call wasteful competition. The trade-offs, though, can be pretty significant. You often see a loss of consumer choice, inefficient decisions made by central planners, and sometimes poor quality products because, well, there's no competition. So here's the really crucial takeaway. No country on Earth is 100% one or the other. In the real world, every economy is a mixed economy. They all blend private companies with government rules and services, trying to get the best of both worlds and hopefully fix some of the problems that come with each peer system. All right, last piece of the puzzle. We have this big picture now, but how do economists actually break it all down and study it? Well, they basically use two different but totally complementary lenses to view the whole thing. And these two branches are microeconomics and macroeconomics. The best way to remember this is the forest and the trees analogy. Microeconomics is all about studying the individual trees. You as a consumer, one single company, one specific industry. It's the small scale stuff. But macroeconomics, that's when you step way back and look at the entire forest, the whole national economy, and you focus on huge issues like unemployment, inflation, and national growth. And that's really the power of it all. This whole way of thinking, from scarcity and opportunity cost all the way up to micro and macro analysis, it gives us a powerful framework for understanding the choices that shape our own lives and the entire world around us. So I want to leave you with this. The next time you make a choice, any choice, big or small, just for a second, stop and ask yourself, what's the opportunity cost here? What is the next best thing I'm giving up to do this? Understanding that hidden cost, that's the first real step to thinking like an economist.